What is that smell? Oh, that must mean we're making cauliflower crust pizza. But don't worry, it turns out fantastic. Even your pickiest eaters are gonna love this pizza. And the best part is, it's healthy. But it doesn't taste healthy, it tastes like junk food. So let's get started. The one downside to this, it tastes great, but it smells terrible when you cook cauliflower, as you know. So the first thing we do is we just buy this at Costco. If you have a Costco nearby, just in the cold refrigerated area that you walk into, you'll find this thing. So what I did is I took 4 cups of that cauliflower rice, or you can grade your own cauliflower. I learned this technique from a YouTuber named Chef Buck. You know, my final recipe is a little different than his video, but this method of preparation I learned from him, and I like it a lot better. In the book it tells you to cook it, the cauliflower, and then wring it out in a towel, and I just hate doing that. I don't know why, but I do. So this method is just to cook it on like a medium heat. You can see I got it on 5 out of 10 there. And then just to cook the moisture out of it. And you're not trying to brown it or anything like that. You're just trying to stir it and, you know, get it fairly dry or get a lot of the moisture out of it. This may not be as effective as wringing it out, but I just prefer it. I like the way it turns out. So I'll do this for a few minutes. It seems like it takes a little bit. I'll see what time it is when I'm done. I started at about 5:38, so we'll see. It's kind of while I've been getting other stuff out, I'll just kind of shake it like this and get it nice and flat, and then stir it every once in a while so it doesn't brown. And that kind of helps the steam come out, you can see. And then while I'm doing that, I'll come get the other ingredients out. So it's going to take some eggs. Because this is a double recipe, we're going to use 2 eggs. And then we're going to use 2 cups of cheese, of a hard cheese. I'll use this little bit that I have left. You can do this with Parmesan cheese, or I really like this Pecorino Romano. But the deal is to use a hard cheese like this because it makes a firmer crust than if you use mozzarella or some other cheese. And it gives it a lot of flavor. So I'll put 2 cups of this in with 2 eggs, and then the 4 cups of this once it's kind of dried out enough and then cooled down a little bit because we'll need to mash it into a dough. And that's what we'll do next. And you really don't need to add anything else to the crust because it really, that cheese just gives it a lot of flavor. So we've been going, I guess it's going to take about 10 minutes because this feels like it's about dry. Whip up these eggs. 2 eggs. And then I'm going to grate up 2 cups of this cheese. Feels pretty dry. I mean, it's not like dry, but and it's maybe got a slight brown color to it now, but that's okay. It works good. Makes a nice looking crust. So I'm just going to take this off the heat for now and just kind of let that cool a little bit while I finish grating the cheese. So I'm working on grating the cheese right now. Okay, so I've got about 2 cups of this cheese grated, so I'm going to dump that in there. And we'll just stir this up, coat it with the egg. Okay, now I'm going to grab this. Let's see. We'll just dump this in here. And I'll stir this for a minute, and then I'll just use my hands and kind of mold it into a dough. Once I get it onto the pans, I'll kind of mash it into, just wash your hands and mash it out into a dough. So, just kind of spreading it out, and then I'll just use my hands. Usually I find it the easiest, but you kind of smash this out like that. And then eventually just go through and kind of pat it and squish it into a nice little dough. Wash your hands first, be clean. So I'll do that, and I'll use both hands and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I've just been kind of patting it out like this, Just trying to get it out, and you can see, like, I'll just dig in here a little bit. It's not very thick at all. I mean, it's pretty thin. So the other thing is you can see here on the edges where it's just kind of not very thick. So I'm going to go around the edges and I'll just use like either a knife or this wooden spoon and just kind of smash it in like this to give it a little bit of a thicker edge, and that way it just makes it nicer like a real pizza crust. So I'll go ahead and do that and then show you what it looks like. Okay, so here is the finished dough. Kind of doubling that batch. It's enough to fill almost this whole cookie sheet. You can see once I kind of thickened up or cleaned up the edges that it just, you know, it'll just make this give it more integrity, structural integrity. So that'll be good for coating it with the pizza. If I really wanted to push it, I might be able to stretch it clear to the end of the thing, or maybe I could add a little more cauliflower, a little more cheese to fill the whole cookie sheet, but this works for me. So next step is we will put this in the oven at 400. Looks like it's just about preheated. So we'll put it in there at 400 for about between 15 to 20 minutes. I usually set the timer for 15 and check it. The idea is just to cook it so it melts the cheese, you know, makes it into a nice dough, and then we'll put the toppings on and then cook it again. So while the crust is cooking is a perfect time to, you know, work on cleaning up the dishes over there and then preparing the toppings. And Jan has already cut up the mushrooms and green olives, and then I like to put some prosciutto on there, so I kind of make my own little prosciutto squares to spread over the pizza. That's what we do. And then I think Jan's going to also put some artichoke hearts on her side, but since I can't eat those, I will not have any of that. Okay, so this has been in here about 16 minutes, and that looks perfect. So I'm going to pull this out. Yeah, that's looking just nice. So you can see it makes a real nice crust. Let me get a spatula and you can just see. I mean, it holds together real nice. And now it actually smells really good. It doesn't smell like an old shoe anymore. So the next step is we're going to put some of the pesto on, but I wanted to show you the toppings we've got so far. So we have some artichoke hearts here. I was just kind of breaking apart that were frozen, and I just put them in the microwave to thaw them out a little bit. And then we got some mushrooms, some green olives, and then 2 slices of this prosciutto that we got from Costco. And I just chopped it up into little bits. And before we put those toppings on, we'll put on some pesto, and then this goat cheddar cheese will be our cheese base for it. So that's what we'll do next. Okay, so I just put some pesto on here, and you can see so you can see my thumb. This is a small spatula, it's not a big one. But I probably only have about 4 tablespoons of pesto on there so far. And then it might be enough, because I don't put it on here too thick, because this is already quite salty just with the crust and that prosciutto. Sorry, and the cheese that we put in the crust, the pecorino romano, or even if you use Parmesan cheese. So you don't want to, if you're using this pesto base as sort of a sauce, you don't want to put it on too thick, because, I mean, you could, even if you love pesto as much as I do, you can really do it, but I think just about 4 tablespoons is just enough. You get some of that, you can see the olive oil in there, which is nice to have that. And so I'll just spread it on here fairly thin, as you can see, and it still gives it plenty of flavor. And then of course the pesto, this pesto has some Parmesan cheese in it as well. So that's why, another reason why I don't put it on too thick. But, and of course you could just skip doing any sort of sauce, but yeah, so I think about 4 tablespoons of it is plenty, honestly. You can see I just got that on nice and thin. And then I'll go ahead and grate some cheese and put that on. and I'll show you what that's like once it's done. Okay, so I have grated half of that block of cheese, maybe a little more than half. It turned out to be about 1.5 cups. Put most of it on. I saved a little bit in the bowl because I'll put all the toppings on, then I'll sprinkle that remainder on the top. So I'll go ahead and put toppings on now. Okay, here's how we make it. Of course, you can put whatever toppings you want that are healthy toppings. And then we're going to go ahead and put this in the oven for about 10 minutes. I'll usually check it around 9 minutes or so, 8 or 9 minutes. It may need to go as long as 15, but I think usually it's around 10 minutes. So I've still got the oven at 400, so let's go put it in the oven. And then we'll put a timer on. Let's go for 9 minutes. And then we'll check it then. And I'm gonna finish cleaning up all this so that by the time it's done, we have a clean kitchen, clean dishes, and we're ready to eat. So this recipe is really good. It just takes a little while to make. So we usually only make it on the weekends when we have a little bit of time to make it. It'd take about 45 minutes to make because you have to cook it 20 minutes once, 10 minutes another time, and then you just have kind of some prep time in between. So just so you know. Pizza was delicious, but I wanted to just show you why we like to use the parchment paper. Number one, that pizza sticks to the pan for some weird reason, even though it's greasy and everything, but of course, now for cleanup, super clean, doesn't even need to be washed.